everyone, welcome back. Season 7, it's episode 4 of the Canary Room, but it's only episode 4 because we've spent the last 3 weekends, or just over 3 weekends, on the road. So first off, we went to see Sam Wilds, Sam and Nigel, and Sam's lovely mum. And that was a really enjoyable episode to do and create, and fascinating to see all of Sam's budgies and learn so much about it. So if you haven't seen that one already, have a check out of that. Then, of course, the big announcement, something I'm not very good at keeping secrets, to be fair, but something that I have kept secret for a few months from you all now, and I apologise for that. That is, of course, the formation of a new partnership for 2024 with the Fife Canaries. So Spencer and Eld, Fife Canaries for 2024. Gerald and I will be breeding and showing in partnership from now on. So we did an episode from Gerald's. Thanks for all the lovely feedback on that, and all the people who've liked and followed the Facebook page as well. And then last up, the wonderful Brian Keenan. What a whole host of fun that was to film, and you seem to have enjoyed it too, so thank you for that. I have already spoken to Brian. We will be going back later in the year to see how he's got on. So what do we have in store today? Well, we will see the final male birds this year. So the cinnamon cockbirds, or cinnamon line cockbirds, they're both carrier birds, and we will see the white line as well, because we will be continuing the white line this year, so a little bit more of that later on. We will have an update on the British native finches, which you might be able to see behind me. A little bit of an update on them, and talk to you about some plans for 2024 with them. Hopefully you'll enjoy that. And a little bit of an update in what's going on in the room, because we have eggs. Everybody, we have eggs, we've had breeding, we've had mating, it's all systems go here, and of course we've got question time as well, so we'll catch up with the Norwich too. Loads and loads and loads to get on with. Where's my cuppa? There it is. Listen, you know what to do, everyone. Grab yourself a cuppa, sit back and enjoy the show. There has been much progress since you were here last, so let me talk you through it. Back wall, as many of you who are familiar with the Canary Room will know, the back wall has 4 8-foot flights in it. Okay, so in the top left-hand corner, we've got a lovely pair of native finches, a little bit more on that later on, and then this cage here is another pair of wonderful red poles. I can tell you what they are now. And below, I've got the flight opened all the way up. So I've got a full 8-foot run, and I've got a pair of British native bullfinches in there. And then the 2 cages below that have got red poles in as well. Now, it's a slight change of plan this year, because I'd hoped to keep these open and have some developments outside, but we had to put that on hold for now. But it is only temporarily on hold. We will get that up and running at some stage. So everything's had a deep clean. Everything is singled off. We are in the early throes of the 2024 breeding season. On the wall here, you can see, possibly just out of shot, in the top cages, I've got some red-black grey wings, and I've got a cross canary, basically, with a red-black grey wing cock. So sort of 3 pairs up there, which I'll use as feeders, and then I've got 5 straight pairs of Norwich here that I'm running for 2024. So more on that in a moment. If I look on the wall straight in front of me here, this is the main Fife breeding wall, and I'll give you a little bit of an update about that now. So set up for this year, relatively straightforward. 6 cocks across the top, and then the 4 cages underneath have all got single hens in. So essentially, the cock at the top has the 4 hens underneath. Now, it doesn't quite work out like that. Cinnamon carrying cock has got 3 hens to mate with. He's already mated with 2 of them. There's a clear or ticked yellow cock who's got 3 hens, and there's a clear buff cock who's actually got 6 hens to cover. He's put 2 of them down already, another 4 still to go. In this cage here, I've got a heavily variegated buff cock. He's got 1 hen down with another 3 to go. And then there's a heavily variegated yellow cock in cage 5 and in cage 6. There's 8 hens there, so essentially they've got 4 each. But what I've done in the first round is run 1 of them over 5 birds. So all systems go. All systems go. Lots of mating, lots of treading, lots of calling. Really delighted. So some eggs, nothing set yet. Nothing won't be set for a few days. I think I've got 1 hen that's laid 4 eggs, but and another couple of hens still laying. So a nice steady start, and there's a couple of things I'm putting that down to. So many of you have seen certainly the Spencer and Eld site, Facebook site, and also my own page, the Canary Room page, will know that this year I've been using Top Form Tonic, which is from our friends at Pet Source. It's a conditioning seed, and you might not be able to hear in the room because I'm talking, but there's quite a lot of noise, and the birds are in a really good condition. Now, I don't think it's just the conditioning seed, but I think the conditioning seed has a part to play in it. So that's Top Form Tonic from Pet Source that I'm using. There's 2 other things I've done slightly differently this year. So the first thing is always learning, always open-minded to things, and visiting Matt Dando on a couple of occasions. And Matt has it's called Ink Bird. I'll put a link and I'll put it on my Amazon shop as well. It's basically a thermostat system with a detector which detects the air temperature, and you have 2 plugs attached to it. One is a cooler, one is a heater. And what I've done is put an oil-filled radiator in one. I haven't put the cooler on yet because it's not warm enough in the bird room yet to use that. But essentially what it does, the temperature control picks up the temperature, and then if it needs to, it clicks the heating on. And in the summer, it will click a cooling fan on. That's the first thing I've done, and honestly, it's been a game changer for me because it's kept a consistency of temperature in the room. Now, in March, the temperature in the UK fluctuates. We've had a few hard frosts, and that's just kept it at a steady state. And for me, as well as the lighting, that's kept the birds in a really good constant flow. So I'm delighted with that. The second thing, and it was a visit to Bry Keenan's that I've seen it. I've had them in here before, but this is a massive industrial size one. It was on offer in Amazon. Again, I'll put a link on my Amazon shop. Is an air purifier, and I've changed my bedding mix in here to gold chip this year, so dust free. Mindful of when I went to Sam's and seen the work that the budgie guys do in terms of air quality, mindful I didn't feel I was doing enough, so I bought this unit. And it's fabulous. So it runs on a timer, it runs on 8-hour timer, it's automatic, so it detects the quality in the air. It's got a HEPA filter on it, it's got an ionizer on it. It's the whole 9 yards, ladies and gents. The air quality in the Canary Room is better than it is in the house, but don't tell anyone. So it's a real neat piece of kit. So bought that. It wasn't cheap. I am going to say that it wasn't cheap. I got 50 quid off it on Amazon, and it was still expensive. So, but for my benefit, most importantly for the birds' benefit, money well spent in my opinion. That for me has helped. Those sort of 3 things, that 3-point combination has helped bring the birds into a really good place. Speaking of the birds, let's have a look now at the latest birds, our final set of cockbirds for this year. It is our cinnamon carrying line and our white line. So 3 more birds to introduce you to, everyone. So the first one is a part of our cinnamon carrying line. Now there are 2 cinnamon carrying birds in the room this year. There are a couple of visual fawn hens. There's a cinnamon hen. There's an allied to white blue hen as well. So the first one is a heavily variegated cinnamon carrying buff cock, bought in from Gerald earlier this year. I've seen what this bird is bred. You've seen what it's bred on the episode that we went to see Gerald's. I think some of the cinnamon cocks that you saw there were magnificent, and this is the father of those birds. So it's bred some really, really nice birds. It's going to run over 3 hens. It's not showing itself here particularly well. It's, it's in breeding condition. It's not in show condition. It's got 3 hens that I am looking to have it cover. There is a blue hen, which is a hen I got off Gerald, which he put it to last year, which bred some really nice birds. There is a cinnamon variegated yellow hen, which is his daughter, so I'm doing a father to daughter pairing there. Again, bought that bird in from Gerald, and it's bred some really nice birds last year. And then the final bird is a fawn hen, which I bred last year, which is the sister to the blue cock, which is the second bird that we're going to see here. Now, this blue cock bird, he is a cinnamon carrier. He did very well for me on the show bench last year. And he is paired to a fawn hen, and the fawn hen is the daughter of the heavily variegated buff cock. So intentionally what I've done there is started to look to build a line of birds up. So I think across the stud, across the 2 rooms, and that's the the picture for me now as well. It's not just about what happens in this room, it's what happens in Gerald's room as well. That's how we're going to take the stud forward and hopefully compete on the show bench. But I've got a little family line of cinnamons, which has got a little bit of different blood in to Gerald's, but it's got some of the same blood in as well. And so, we'll be able to swap those birds across the room. So the blue cock you've seen numerous times, he still looks fantastic. He was doing a bit of nest building before, so much so I got a bit concerned, so I caught him up, blew him up. He's definitely a cock. He can only be a cock the way he was bred. Just out of shot now, I can see the grey-winged cock mating with the mongrel canary hen, so that's always a good sight. And I can see a pair of Norwich mating too, everyone, so all good in here. So yeah, that's the second of the cinnamon birds. He is just with 1 hen at the moment. I did think about running him over a few more. I suspect at some stage he'll take a trip over to Barnsley and spend a little bit of time in Gerald's shed with some of the birds there. So I just got 1 hen for him in here at the moment. So those are the 2 cinnamon carrying cockbirds. No visual cinnamon cockbirds in the shed this year. There are only now 3 visual cinnamon hens, although of course 2 of those are fawns. The other is a variegated cinnamon yellow. So that's the cinnamon cockbirds, or the carrier cockbirds. And then the white line viewers to the channel, regular viewers to the channel will know I've been building a white line over a few years. Or certainly last year was the first year of it. Some good success. I've been, what I'd always do when I think about building a line of birds is sort of go big to start with and then bring it in, find out what I want from that. And what I've done in there is I've retained the white hen, which was best allied to white at North Wales. She did very well on the show bench. She won a class at the Midland as well. I've retained her, and I've retained the variegated white cock. Now, the variegated white cock, we can see him here, is in really peak condition. He is paired to a ticked yellow hen this year. She is the mother of some of the really strong clear birds I've bred. So she's a couple of years old, this bird. She's just building a nest. She's an outstanding bird. He didn't fill any eggs for me last year. He was a really good parent and he reared really well, but he didn't fill any eggs. So I've given him a second chance. Now, make or break really with the white line, because the hen that I bred was a single nester. So I've got to be careful about the fertility of those birds. Now, they are with unrelated birds, so I'm trying to boost the fertility, but they're with birds that I think visually match them quite strongly as well. But I have got to be mindful of that. The cockbird, you can probably hear a cockbird whistling. It's the white cockbird, so he's in bouncing condition at the moment. He is looking, he's looking really good. He's looking really strong. So that's our white line. Of course, there are other allied birds in the shed. The fawns, of course, are here, but I've got 2 blue hens as well, and they're both laying at the moment. So one is with a cinnamon carrying cock, which is at that end of the shed, and the other is here. She's laid a first egg today. She's with a heavily variegated yellow cock. So there should be a strong sort of nature of allied birds this year, all being well. Right, I tell you what, it's been a while, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to call this the Redpole Diaries, but I am going to give you an update on some of the native British finches in the room as well. And what we will do as the season progresses, I will return the Native Diaries show for a season 2. So something to look forward to. Or not. You decide. Redpole Diaries though. So welcome back to, I'm going to call this section the Redpole Diaries. I will give updates on the natives in the Native Diaries, and I'll probably give them up in the main show as well. But the Redpole Diaries, indebted to my friend Shane at Direct Bird Products for the Redpole seed, and Shane will be sponsoring this section of the show again this year, so thank you, mate. Appreciate that. Cages behind me here. Well, let's talk about the Redpoles firstly. So there will be 6 pairs of Redpoles in the Canary Room this year. Thank you to everyone, Sammy, Matt Chudley, Matt, Russell, all the guys who bought the Redpoles off me. I took them to Stafford earlier this year. So thanks to all them. I hope they're all settling in well for you. Mine certainly are here. So what we've got in here is a visual pied cockbird with an agate split pied hen, or a silver split pied hen. So that's the pair in here. These should produce pieds for us. And then what we've got here is an original pair of pieds that got off Kenny Masterman last year. Touchwood, these were an exceptional pair for me last year. They produced an awful lot of young. And delighted to sort of work with them again. I have seen them feeding, I've seen them beaking each other, and I will over the next few days be putting nest sites in for them. And then the third pair of pieds again is another visual pair of pieds. So this is a pied hen who unfortunately caught a foot in one of the branches on the cages and has damaged a foot, so has got 1 foot. And a pied cock. Now you'll notice with the pied birds that they are quite dark, and I've intentionally selected the sort of darker balanced 50-50 birds this year to try and continue to breed that 50-50 pied marking. What I also like about the birds that I've retained is they've got white wings, so I like that visually. It works for me. So those are the first 3 pairs of poles. I've then got 2 pairs of cobalt Redpoles, which are from Alan Horey's blood, and delighted to be able to take a bird back to Al. Really nice. These are double factor cobalts, so really looking forward to seeing what I can do with them. And then the other thing, which is another new addition, and again, indebted to Rich Warburton. Rich has done incredibly well with his Redpoles. He's moving up to champion this year. We are going to film an episode with Rich at some stage. So Rich has done really well with his poles, but I'm indebted to him. He has let me have a split Isabel carrier cockbird, so this should produce Isabel hens. I've got another little hen to pick up for it. It won't be an Isabel. So that's the sort of mainstay in here. There is something in the flights, which is a little bit different. And then in the room, we've got a pair of British native goldfinches. So they're not in breeding condition as yet. You can see the beaks on them are still black, but they are coming into condition. And then we've got in the full 8-foot length here, and you can see I've got natural perches in this as well. We've got the bullfinches, the native British bullfinches. Now, these birds were separated off. They were separated off all over winter with a wire divide. As soon as I pulled the divide, the hen called Tread. She squatted for the cockbird, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing, brilliant. I've left them like this. There's no nest site in there yet. I have seen the hen picking up branches, pulling branches from there. So I don't think it's a million miles till she'll want to go to nest. What I might do is just single them off for a couple of days, put a nest pan in, and then pull back. And let's see how we get on with the bullies. So native bullfinches, native goldfinches in the room this year, as well as our Redpoles, and something a little bit different in the flight. You'll have to stay tuned to see what that is. That's all from this week's Redpole Diaries. One of the things that has surprised me, and surprised is probably the wrong word, although I'm always constantly surprised in the world of canaries, with the Norwich this year, is just how forward the hens are. Now, I moved the hens in from the flight cages on St Patrick's Day, and I put them in the double breeding cages, and then subsequently with dividers. I've pulled the wire dividers out. I saw all of the cocks feeding all of the hens. I've seen the hens calling for tread, and I have seen matings. There's no nests built yet. It's been a steady, gradual introduction for them. I'm not anticipating them going to nest really until April time, but they're making all of the right moves, and for me, can't ask for much more than that. This, for me, is one of the most enjoyable times of the canary keeping calendar. You know, as I spend a little bit of time in the room here, and I'm able to film the show, and I'm able to just admire the birds and see the birds, and I'm not cleaning cages out. You know, you can see all of the different behaviours. You can see birds calling to mate. You can see birds mating. All the things that you don't see, obviously, when you're not in the room. The Norwich this year, there are 5 straight pairs of Norwich. I do have a spare Norwich hen, a white hen. More about that in a later episode as well. Such a tease, aren't I? I'm such a tease. But what we have here is we've got a pair of birds over here, which is a cockbird that I bred last year from the Jones and Roberts partnership, and a bird that I'd got from Keith Ferry, so it's a sort of blended of my own blood, with a hen there that I bred a couple of years ago as well. And then I've got 4 pairs here, straight pairs of birds from Keith, 2 buff cocks here, and 2 yellow hens, and 2 yellow cocks and 2 buff hens in the cage behind me. So I have seen these birds call tread, I've seen them mate. They're in good form. I'm not going to say much more than that because I don't want to put the mockers on it. I have got my rings. I've got 20 Norwich rings this year. You know, if I can fill those rings, I'll be absolutely delighted. Some of you may be wondering, hang on a second, Matt, you said you weren't going to have anything other than canaries in there. You were right, and then I did say I'd have bullfinches in there as well. I do have, as you know, a spare facility with a lot of flight cages, a couple of flights, and some other cages in it. So when it comes to the young, there are still significant numbers of empty cages in the canary room, although it doesn't look like it because they're all at a lower level than I'm filming. So that's where I'll house this year's young. Fingers crossed that we get plenty of them. It'll be a nice problem to have. So that's our Norwich notebook. Stay tuned for that. Coming up now, it's time for question time. I'm always indebted for people who take the time to contact me, and particularly for this next section of the show. It is, of course, question time. Lots and lots and lots and lots of questions. Some quick fire, some not quick fire. So I'm going to start with, friend of the show, Sam Wild. Sam? We know Sam used to keep canaries. Maybe he's thinking about it today. So Sam's question is, what 3 tips would you give someone setting up with canaries? Brilliant question. I think I asked you the same one about budgies, mate. So first thing is, get birds that you like. You know, the canary is available in a multiplicity of different breeds, colours, sizes. Get something you like. Get something that you're going to be happy with, because, as we all know, as bird keepers, it's a commitment. It is, you know, this is a 365 hobby. There is no respite from it. If you're not here, you need to find somebody who can help you. So it's a real commitment. Any livestock is a huge commitment. So first thing, get something you like. Secondly, decide what you want the birds for. So is it for pleasure? Is it for exhibition purposes? Make that decision early. You know, you can learn and develop a stud at the same time. I know some people say, oh, get some sort of mediocre birds, get your eye in. The challenge with that, and I'll be brutally honest with you, challenge with that, you've got mediocre birds, they are hard to move on. If you breed them, you're not going to get a stud of birds going quickly. And then because we're human beings, we develop an affection to these things, rightly so. So, you end up keeping birds that you like, which are nowhere near the show standard. So start with the best birds that you can. And start with good quality birds. And that's really interlinked with the third bit of advice, which is go to somebody who you can go back to. I've been very fortunate. 25 years ago, I had no idea in 25 years' time I'd be in partnership with a man, but I have been able to pull birds back from Gerald pretty much every year for the last 25 years, and it's been nice that I've been able to send a few the other way as well. So go with somebody that you can pull back on, particularly if you want a line breed. So thank you, Sam, for the question. I hope that answers it sufficiently for you. I am going to have to take my glasses off here. A couple of quick fire questions. What can you tell us about birds going light, from Wayne McCarthy? Well, Wayne, it's known perhaps derogatory slow on the continent as the English disease. Going light, a bird going light essentially is a bacterial build-up, and the bird stops eating or eats a lot but is unable to gain weight. It's hard when you see, because a canary is so small. When you notice a bird go down, it's often too late now. Whether you run doxycycline through it, whatever you run through it at that stage to try and bring it back, and I've tried on numerous occasions. So for me, prevention is better than cure when it comes to birds going light. Some birds are prone to it. Greenfinches in particular seem to be prone to it, and I know a lot of the greenie lads will medicate the birds on a monthly basis as a preventative method. It can be horrible if you see a bird, because essentially the bird is just wasting away. So prevention, don't overstock your shed, don't overstock your bird, don't overcrowd your cages. Hygiene, good hygiene, get rid of, stale soft food, all of the basic things. Keep your drinkers clean. All of those things can help form bacteria build up. So if you keep all those things, you are preventing the likelihood of going light. It happens in every shed. It will imagine happen in mine again this year, despite all of those things. So the other key thing is don't give up. Another question from Alvin Vorhurst. I hope I've got that right, Alvin. So as a breeder, I get sometimes in a situation that the female wants to start the second round when the chicks are only 14 days old. Baby cage doesn't work when you have a male that doesn't help feeding, or the female feeds the young on her own. When she doesn't feed anymore, what options do we have? So it's a really, really good question, this. And there's, again, without feeling like I'm repeating myself, prevention in here is almost better than cure. So there is a real fine balance with overfit hens. So overfit hens will race to go back to nest. If you've got an overfit cock, he'll drive her back to nest as well. The reality is, once a bird hits 14 days, a young bird that hits 14 days, it's unlikely that any other bird will feed it. So it's very difficult to foster it away. You can try hand feeding. Now, I have done that with some degrees of success on occasion. The challenge is I'd always drop the pan, so I put the pan in a clay bowl at the back of the cage. So I'd drop the pan in the first instance, put as much sort of green food, everything else, just to try and get, and soak seed, just to try and get the young birds pecking, because they will naturally, they're inquisitive, they'll naturally peck away. Whether it'll be enough to sustain them, it often isn't. In that case, it is a crop feeder, and you've got to try and keep them going yourself. I hope that answers your question, mate. So listen, thanks everyone for question time. Keep them coming in. I get multiplicities of messages on Messenger, and I do try and respond to all of them. It's all we've got time for. It's been an epic, I feel. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. I create this content for you. and I really welcome your support and your subscription. It's not for any kind of financial benefit. If you think about the hours and the time I put in putting the show together, I can assure you it is a negative balance. But I don't do it for the money. I do it because I love this hobby, I love the birds, and I love creating content for you to watch. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. I am desperate to get over the 20,000 subscribers mark this year if I can. I'm kind of sort of stumbling along around about 17,800 or so. So if you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. Notification bell. Every time we put a video out, you'll get a notification. If you've loved the video, please hit a like. And don't forget to comment in the box below. Until next time, everyone, take care.